What's up, guys? Today we have a crusher, local crusher, aka a wizard, also the legend Shane Melert. What's up, Shane? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. What's up, Clyde? Clyde is going to be co-hosting today.
What's up, guys? What's up, Shane? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited.
How you guys feeling today?
A little
Never
tired.
better. Never better.
Never better. Damn, top shape. Okay, we gotta fire up. We have a lot of questions for you, Shane. I'm gonna go back and forth here, me and Clyde. Just for starters, just give us a little background how you started with poker. When did you start the grind? How did you learn the game? Just give us a little background.
Yeah, sure. When I was like 18, I had like no relationship with my dad or whatever, and he played poker on like Thursdays. So I hit him up and asked if I could come hang out and play some poker. So I started just like in a $10 home game, and just started to take it like a lot more seriously than those guys. And then come like 2014, so maybe like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, just started to play online for like $2, $5, $10. Yeah. Had a apartment with some college buddies, and there was times where like it's Friday night and they're drinking or something, but I was still like deep in like a $10 tournament. So I was like closed my door. I like couldn't go out and hang until like I busted. And then did okay. I got to a point where Global Poker started to run like cash games. They started to like advertise on Facebook and hit up like the whole general population. They were like running ads, so like your uncle or anybody would just see like a Global Poker ad and be like, what, I can play online? And then Global Poker would let you deposit with credit cards, which like no other site would let you do. So you could deposit like on credit. You don't even need the real money. So like those two things combined, like the ads to everybody and then credit, made the games like crazy good. Crazy good. I couldn't even beat like 2 cent, 5 cent on ACR. And then I like jumped on global and was making like thousands. It was
Shane,
like a weird gold mine.
Damn.
Yeah.
Shane, what were you doing back then? Like when you mentioned being with your dad and playing in his home game and all that stuff. Like that was your beginning basically into poker. What was like your life look like? What did you work a job? What kind of job did you work? Were you in college? Did you go to college? Like what's your background like at the
Yeah.
beginning of poker?
I went to college for 3 years. I got a 2-year degree. Just a town back in Ohio called Akron or Kent. I went to school there, like a local town. I still live with like my parents or something. And then got an apartment with my boys, and I worked like McDonald's, and then I worked at a record store buying and selling like used music and video games. People would trade it in. You'd like give them $4 for like a movie or something, and then just doing this like on the side. And then I got an internship at the Ohio Lottery. It's like scratch off tickets and stuff. My neighbor was like high up. He worked for the governor and stuff, and I was like a polite kid in the neighborhood. So he's like, "Yo, Shane, you want like an internship? We got a room." I'm like, "You get? Is it paid?" And he said, "Yeah, it was like $18 an hour," and I was like 18 years old. I was like making twice as much as my homies. It was great.
Stoked.
Yeah, it
Stoked.
was awesome. But it was weekends, and it was like you worked till like midnight. It was pretty shitty hours.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So you
but it
had
made me
like
like stay
free
up late.
time.
It made me play some poker, and it gave me time to like do other things. Yeah, because you didn't have to work until like 3 in the afternoon.
Gotcha.
Just to backtrack, so you said you learned the game from your dad. So you said, so when was the first time you were just exposed to the game? First time, just
Probably
like doing.
2013, 2012. Played with him for like a year or two, and then like not getting good or anything, just playing,
I
just
mean,
showing up.
what attracted you to the game from the get go?
For sure, just strategy. I was I guess a cool fact about me was I was the first person in the country to get a college scholarship for gaming, like esports. Really good at
That's
video
cool.
games, always been good, like the
Checks
best
out.
of my friends or whatever. And then there's a game called
What
League of Legends that came out, and they had like a pro scene. They had like it's called LCS, the Challenger Series. So they get like gamers and they pay them like a salary, like 50K a year, and they just compete across the world, like against Korea and China and everything. And my goal is to like be one of the American players. There's 6 teams, and then that was the goal, is to be like one of those 6 teams. So I made a team with my friends, and we became the number one non-pro. Like we weren't in the 6. There was a whole bunch of other teams. We were like number 1 out of those. And
In
eventually
this game, in the League of Legends.
in League of Legends, yeah. And the goal
Okay.
like of number 1 is to kind of jump into those 6 and make the salary and stuff.
Damn.
Cool. So you got a scholarship from League of Legends.
Yeah. Liked the strategy, I liked gaming, and then the fact that you can make money at this strategy game was really cool to me. Yeah.
Of course. So you got exposed to the game, started playing online here and there. When was the first year that you actually kind of took it serious and you start showing some profit? When did you start taking it seriously? And when did you start tracking? Like what year did you start tracking? And our prodigy over here, when I asked him did he first have a winning year, he's like right out of the gate. Him and
Yeah.
Jeremy. I mean, I was
I
surprised
listened
really
to that.
because I've had like few losing years before I start showing, before I start being break even, slightly losing, and then like 2016 it turned around. But these guys right out of the gate they were showing profit. I mean, Jeremy
Yeah, it's
said like
crazy.
few months. He was like 3-4 months losing, and then he started winning. Clyde here said he was winning the first year. So, what's your backstory as far as?
It took a while. Yeah, for sure. I was kind of doing it on my own. I didn't have like a community or anything. I was just playing in my apartment with my buddies, and I remember I had like $1,200 in my bank account, and then like a year went by, and I had $1,200 in my bank account, and then like another year went by, I had like 1,100 in my bank account. So like I paid for rent, I paid for like going out and hanging out with my friends and shit, and then I would like deposit 100 on ACR, and then like eventually lose it, and like try another 200. But I was never making money. Yeah, for sure. Just forever.
What was the first year that you would say that you like officially went pro?
Probably 2022. Yeah, 2-3 years ago.
Very recently.
Yeah, after in 2017, crypto went pretty wild, and it was right around the time where I was making money at poker, but I wasn't like a pro. I still had a job. It was when those global poker games got good, and I was making like $5K a month playing sit and goes, $200 sit and goes. That was like their highest, and they started to run like a 300. But for 6 months, I made $5,000 each, so I had like 30K, and then I had a job too. I was making the $20 an hour, and then I took like the 30K and just threw it into crypto, and then I basically just stopped playing poker. Period. For like I made a ton of money from that, so I quit from like 2017 to 2021. So for like 4 years, I didn't play poker or work or do anything.
How much?
And then
did you
like
make
when
from crypto?
21 hit, then I kind of got back into poker and taking it like far more seriously, and that's kind of when the profit started to come in.
During that period from 2013, 2014 to 2022, how many years do you say you were losing, then breaking even, then start showing profit? Has it been like from 2014 to 2022, were they all like slightly losing break even, or you think you had like one breakaway year where you start
Just
showing
like all
profit?
losing probably.
Okay.
There's a time where I tried playing some like cash up at the casino, like 1-3 up in Cleveland, where I was from, Ohio. I don't think I really showed much profit. I didn't track anything. I would go sometimes after work because it was kind of near where I worked in Cleveland. And yeah, I remember like buying it for 300 and just like losing it and like feeling pain and going back where I had like 900 in the bank.
See, this is a story I can relate to because it's hard to make money in poker. We know this. Like, it's
Yeah.
not easy. So so you had that period of like losing, break even, losing. That's what I said last time online. I don't know who. I think Jimmy Farnsworth. His name comes up a lot. He made a comment, and I talked about three types of players. It's the one category of players that haven't figured out the game yet. One category of players that are close to figuring shit out and they're kind of break even, and the winners that figured. And you can tell from somebody's hand mob, like the progression on hand mob. Um, Another question, what changed like in 2022? What changed, and what study did you do? Did you talk with somebody? Did you follow like a training site? Did you read a book? What happened in
Yes.
2022?
That's a lot. I had a lot of money from crypto, and I just tried like living off of it and traveling and stuff. And then eventually the money just got low. I moved to Vegas, and I thought I would like keep making a ton of money with crypto. So I went to like a no income tax state because I thought I was going to keep making like hundreds of grand. And while I was there, I don't know, the total bank account got down to like 8K, 6K, 4K. And I was like, I need to get a job. And then in Vegas, there's a place called the Luxor, the Pyramid. They have an esports arena there, and they run tournaments. And I was like, I'm fucking good at video games. I'm gonna go play a tournament. You win $200, and I got to like game and make friends. I had no friends there. I was alone. But while I was there, I met a dude. His name's Michael Vincent. He came here to Tampa online. His name's Rock Notes. But
You
he
introduce
didn't really have money either. And then he's like, "What'd you do before? Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I used to be a poker player." And then I told him that, and he discovered poker kind of thing. So he started from scratch, and then he just went like balls deep into it, like crazier than anyone I've ever met. And I basically just latched onto him, and we just became like a duo with this stuff.
So the move to Vegas, was it to be a poker pro or do crypto and some poker? Like, what was the dream?
It was like zero poker. It was just because
Zero
I thought I was gonna make a ton of money with crypto, and I didn't want to pay state income tax, so I picked Vegas. That was like it.
Interesting.
Because like I paid like $15K to like Ohio for like taxes that year, and I was like, if I move to Vegas, I'll pay zero, and I can spend $15K on rent. Like that was like the mentality. But I didn't keep making money, so it was just like a bad choice.
That's cool.
Interesting. So now
But
we
I met
have
him.
now we have an idea on your background. We know how you came up. 2022 comes, you start taking poker seriously, you start tracking.
Yeah.
Let's get to the nitty gritty. This question is a little bit more deeper into strategy. What is an effective exploit to use to take advantage of weaker players? Something using another question actually before we get to that. What format did you play online? You said you played online. Was it sit and goes? Was it cash games? Was it a mix of everything?
Yeah, for sure. Jumped around, tried them all, tried whatever I could do. When the global games were juicy, I like I said, I couldn't beat like 2 cent, 5 cent. That's when you buy them for $5. But I loaded up global cash games and I saw $1, $2, and there was a dude who was like buying it for 200, losing it, buying, lose it, buying, lose it. I saw him while watching on my screen, just watching. I wasn't at the table. He reloaded 6 times, and I had like work in an hour, and I fucking like waited for a seat to open, and I like stole it like as soon as it was up, and I put in $200, which is like a fifth of my net worth. I had $1,000. And then he lost like 6 more buy-ins. He lost like 12 buy-ins in like a minute. Like
Fish.
so I started playing cash on there. But then what I really liked was these sit and goes. So I just jumped in these sit and goes with like all the profit from the cash games was to play like 200, 400 sit and goes.
There's always a format that you discovered that meshes with your style. Like for me, it was tournaments. Played cash for years, never figure shit out. Once I played tournaments, I start seeing
clicked
results.
better.
There's always that one format that clicks. Okay, so what's a live exploit that you use? This is jumping into the nitty gritty stuff now. A live exploit that you use to exploit weaker players at the tables.
I think everyone kind of knows deep down that like aggression wins. Like everyone's heard it, everyone said it. Even the losers know that like it's better to be aggressive or whatever. I think there's like a reverse coin to that where like people don't know how to be aggressive. So I think the big exploit is like when your opponents start to try to be aggressive, you just fold. Like they're not doing it enough. They haven't seen that like king 2 suited is a check raise. They don't know that. It's just they haven't looked at a solve. No one's talked to them about it. So like in basically every node, people are gonna like check raise too little. And so like I guess the exploit is like don't put money in when they want you to because they're not bluffing enough.
Because they're not balanced. It's more top heavy when they check raise or when they show aggression. It's more like it's mostly weighted towards value.
Yeah,
When you do
the
that,
like right way to think about it is kind of like if they're not bluffing enough, when you click call, you need to be ahead of their value. So you if they're not like check raising ace 8 on ace 2 5, then like you can't call like ace 7 like or ace 9. Like you have to be ahead of the hands they're doing it for value with.
good one.
Or you just muck.
Clyde, you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question on Shane. So you spent a lot of time studying. I know you didn't really touch up on this, but I know you have a big background in online MTTs, and you've done well over the years in that. My question is more for young poker players. Let's say an 18, 19, 20-year-old from Florida, from Ohio. he's looked at poker, or he or she has looked at poker, and they thought it was interesting. They want to get into it. What do you recommend a young poker player? How would you recommend they study? How would you recommend they get into poker? Yeah.
I kind of like what Carl said. You got to find what clicks for you. So for some, it's just not going to be the tournament route. It might just be the cash route. So I guess they always have to figure that out, and that can take like a year or two. Like you might think it's cash or whatever, and then just change your mind. So that whole process of figuring out if you want to play live cash or online cash. But in terms of like getting better, you just need to get like the friend that I found, like Rock Notes. You kind of need someone who's like equally or more passionate than you, who like you can send something to, and he won't just be like, yeah, I like that. Instead, he'll like write an essay about like why X is better or Y is better, or like that would be really cool to do if this happened. Just like you have to find someone to get into the weeds with.
Then
What's that?
Well, you would recommend that someone would experiment a lot and try what works for them.
Yeah, for sure.
What you're saying.
And that's the toughest part of the equation, is trying to figure out what works, because I see players all over the place. They're playing PLO cash, they're playing 1-2, they're playing 2-5, they're playing tournaments. I tried that and it didn't work at all. I was trying to grind both cash and tournaments at the same time. I mean, I talked with AJ Kelsall. He said you should be good in both. I don't think it's that easy to be good in both. But he made a good point as far as like, if you're good in tournaments, you should be good in cash, and it's not correct the other way around. That was a good point. But yeah, trying to figure it out is the hardest part. It's going to take a lot of trial and error. A lot of bankrolls are going to be busted to try to figure out.
I think if I just had like a blank slate dude in front of me, I would say don't pick tournaments. I would say if you want to make money, just play cash games. But the reason I personally chose tournaments because of how passionate I am about them. I really like the competition and the strategy.
Well said. How much short stack game have you studied? And talk a little bit about short stacking.
All of it. That's basically the only thing I've ever studied. Yeah. Just every day. When they run tournaments like the Venom or like the main event or something, I would for sure say like some of my edge is gone in those. I don't know how to play a 200 big blind stack. I know how to value bet when I have 200 bigs. I know how to hit the nuts and put money in or whatever. But I don't think personally. I don't know how many people actually study this, but there's a lot of overbetting and a lot of money going in, and it's really, really hard to do that for me when I have like above 60 big blinds.
It's really hard to do what?
To find a way to put a ton of chips in. Because I always think people are going to like approach it the same way I do, where like they need to be ahead of like hands before they even put chips in. And you could be really, really wrong when you're deep stack about this stuff. Like, for instance, like say you like overbet or something, their call should always be like perfect blocker and flush draw or something. But some people like don't even call those. They're only calling the traps or whatever. And then some people like in a live environment are calling way too wide. So it swings drastically. And I personally, I don't know like what I'm dealing with sometimes, but when it's in the 50 and below, I basically just always know exactly what I'm dealing with because I've played with it so much.
I want to touch up on something Shane just said. I find it a lot that recreationals are very inelastic based on bet sizing. So when I'm deep, I love to incorporate like overbetting strategies, like 150% pot, 2x pot on turns, especially just because I think that what Shane just said is that some players like either are folding everything or calling too much. But I feel like at the end of the day, those player types kind of balance out, and you kind of like get a good like overall strategy in the long term if you just stick to it. And I think it's really fun to incorporate those strategies into your game when you're deep stacked. And they're super fun to study if you guys have ever studied over betting strategies.
It's really refreshing to see when I'm at the table to see somebody over betting, because you never see it. Like the amateurs, you always see half pot. That's the only bet size they know. It's like half pot on the flop, half pot on the turn, and then like
sometimes it's just quarter pot, and they just have top pair, top kicker, and they just don't know what to do.
It's like third pot and then third pot and then like 20% pot. Like, what are you doing?
You see it online too. Some of the, like the determined bet sizes, like the site gives you, and like
Yeah.
it's normally like a quarter, half, and then full pot. And everyone like for years just clicks half pot, half pot.
Half pot, half pot. That was
It's right in the middle. It's easy to navigate.
I
It's
think
so
it's a huge weakness that many players have is they don't know how to actually get value from their hands. It's like so basic, but people don't know how to do it.
And most amateurs, they get overworked in the hand. They want the hand to be end to end as soon as possible. They don't like
Yeah.
pressure spots. You, Lyle, you two like love pressure spots, and you do well. Amateurs get too overwhelmed in high pressure spot. That's why you see the chips just like, especially three bet pots. They're the hardest to navigate live, just because. I mean, I told you the hand history last time. The guy called me, not called. I mean, check shove turn on a 6-6-7 board with ace king, just because once the pot is too big, they're not folding. And you, Clyde, you said you're like, how are we supposed to beat these guys in three bet pots when they're not folding? So when we don't have it, it sucks. When we have it, it's great.
We just give up more on rivers because they're
Right.
the general strategy is just going to be c betting, betting on turns. They're gonna be calling the flop too much. They're gonna get to the turn node and they're gonna have to overfold. But when they get to the river, like you just said, is they don't fold if the pot's too big. So just like underfolding river nodes is basically I think
They
a good
don't.
strategy against
They
recreational
auto call. Once it's a three bet pot, they auto call. Especially if they have like 45 big blinds to start the hand, they're just auto calling turn, no matter what. Like ace king, ace queen are calling on 7 high board, 8 high board. It's really tough to see.
Yeah.
Shane, another question here. Talk a little bit about mental game, because I know nobody is successful in poker unless they have their mental game together. As far as like dealing with tilt, do you have any ritual like preparation before sessions? Talk to me about dealing with tilt in session. You take a couple beats. How you're like regrouping? How long does it take you to regroup? I've never seen you personally tilt at the table, because I mean I've made a couple final tables with you and I've seen you always like, but this is on the outside. I want to know what's going on
Yeah.
the inside.
Let me think. In terms of the ritual stuff, not really. I got a good life routine. I got like a nice clean apartment that I'm happy living in, and I didn't just like make my bed for the show and shit. All my shit's just clean and put together. All my laundry's always done. And
You can
shit.
tell from this little corner that it's well put together.
Yeah. And then I go to the gym twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. I take a lot of supplements that help. So I just try and keep my shit together in terms of like my life, because
Talk
I
to
don't
us,
have health insurance. And
talk to us about supplements. That's a subject I'm interested in.
I take the like daily greens, some of that. I take some omega-3s. I take creatine every day, and vitamin D and B. I think that's it.
I wanna touch up on that, Shane. You are generally like one of the most stoic people I know, and I feel like on the outside, you rarely ever tilt. Do you think that you tilt, or do you just think that
I
combination
tilt
of
in the
like
chat for
healthy
sure when
life?
I'm like texting my boys. There's I'm
But you just
screaming and
never
calling
show
people
it
names. Yeah,
at the tables.
it's mostly just because of strategy. It's because like someone will do something and like tell me their strategy, and then like I'll immediately start countering it. That's the game. The game is they're starting to throw rocks, so I'm going to start throwing paper nonstop. But then like if they do something that's like so like blatantly pointless or something that makes me like shift my strategy hard and then like flip back on me or something, that can get really frustrating, because like I would have never done X if I hadn't seen them do Y or whatever. But they don't like they're raising 2-3 off under the gun, but they're like limping like Jack 7 suited. What's the logic here? So that randomness is like sometimes really hard to, and that stuff can tell me for sure.
That's a very good point, man. Last little slick at Hard Rock, that's exactly what was going on. They were limping like ace jack, pocket jacks. There was a lady at the table. She was limping like very strong hands. And at Showdown, I'm like, what is going on? If it's hard to figure out what somebody's doing when they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
How are you
I
limping
agree.
jack suited under the gun? How are you limping pocket jacks under the gun? And it's going like 5-6 ways. But at Showdown, she's winning and she's like showing off all these strong hands. So like you said, I didn't honestly know how to adjust in real time. It threw me off.
We always
You're
call it
talking about the
anti-poker.
little slick a few days ago.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I was
But
at a table. Whole table was doing that. They were like limping very very strong range, and I'm there like messing around with ace three suited and just getting crushed on the river because they're limping the top 2% of the range.
What level was it? I feel like players sometimes do that at like very early stages of the tournament because they're scared and they don't know how to proceed on later streets when it's that early, so they just play the most passive option.
It was early stages. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it was.
You see
Yeah,
that a
like
lot when people don't know how to play super deep. Kind of what Shane just said
I
about being
don't.
super deep. It's a very common thing for tournament players to just be like, "What the hell am I supposed to do? I'm 200 big blinds deep. I'm just gonna limp ace queen off under the gun, so I don't have to." So my option is easy. I just flop top pair. I just check call a raise and then hope to flop top pair. Or maybe
well
call a
said.
c bet and hope to get lucky on the turn. It's people don't know how to play deep stack in tournaments.
To answer a little bit more too on the what do I do to just not freak out or whatever, I think a lot of it's from making a lot of money in crypto years ago and then like just losing a lot of money. I don't think there's any like real outward effort I put towards this. You just kind of become numb once you like go through some shit. So I don't know. Yeah.
That's a
Also,
good.
I think having like a lot of money, like not a lot of money, but a lot of bankroll or whatever, like for the stakes you're playing is gonna help or whatever. So if you have 20K and you're playing like a $600 tournament, it's
Being
you have to be
properly
tilted when you lose. It's too much of your money. Like it's
yeah.
impossible to avoid because it actually hurts.
That's a good.
Shane,
Point. That's a good point.
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to mention you talk a lot about crypto and you talk about how you went through a lot of swings in crypto and how you had a big come up. What was like the peak? What would you say you had like net worth in crypto at one point?
Yeah. It was when Bitcoin hit like 20K. So like 4 years ago, the price hit like an all-time high, and I had some money from poker. I took it all and bet against Bitcoin. So every time it dropped a couple dollars, I made a couple dollars, and then I took all that money and bet against it again, and then made more. And I took all that and bet against it again. So it's called shorting. I shorted it from like 20,000 down to 4,000, and every time I made profit, I put it back in. I remember my New Year's resolution that year was to like make 100K. I wanted to do that for the first time ever. I was like 22 or something, and I did it like in March, like fucking 3 months in. I was like at Chipotle. I had a trade open on my phone. I was like, holy shit, guys! I had like two friends in front of me, and that trade was like 35 grand or something, just like while eating Chipotle. I was like, this is sick. And then I took that 35 grand and kept doing it. By like October, I had like 480 grand, and then by the end of the year or something, I had 550 peak, so 500,000. The goal period was just like to make 1.5 million, 1.2 million, make more than a million was the goal, and then just not work. I was like addicted to the idea of like not working, and like I only get 80 years on this planet. I don't want to work for any of it. That was the goal.
What year was that when you peaked at 500,000?
Uh 18, 28, 17, 18. Yeah.
Long time.
By the time
a pro crypto trader.
by like December,
We're
I
talking to
hired a
Warren
tax
Buffett over
guy.
here.
What's that?
Yeah.
I said we're talking to Warren Buffett over here.
No, I just got lucky, I guess. I don't know. But by December, I like had to file taxes and I hired a tax guy or whatever. On December that year, I claimed like 340K profit. So like 200 of it was just like gone from me like doing what I was doing. So I didn't get to keep like 500K or anything. And then I paid the IRS like 120 grand. And then I paid off my parents' house. So my dad got to retire like 5 years early. And then I bought a Subaru and like traveled the country. I did like the whole right half of the country just alone in the car, riding my bike around, going to like national parks and stuff, just kind of like trying to live a little bit. And then by the time all of it ended, I had like 90 grand. And then I just thought I would be able to keep lasting forever, but it didn't happen that way. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to poker. That's interesting, actually. This is all new information to me.
Super cool.
Let's talk about live tells. Back to the old school poker. What's the number one live tell that you look for?
This isn't really my forte, I'll be honest, but I got a group of poker players we talk to all the time, and one is just a live cash player. He's been playing live cash for like 8 years or something. And I've asked him this question, and he had like two. And I remember one of them was when someone like puts like all in or something, or if they're happy to show you their chips, if you're like, can I see your chips? And they're like happy about it, they're like, yeah, here, look. That's a bluff, because they're like trying to project the confidence of like, go for it. But when they don't want to move at all, that they're like nervous they're gonna fuck up and not get paid. So they like move quick or
That's
slow
a
and don't
good
move at all.
one. That's a good
That's
one.
something he's told me, and I for sure look for it.
I've noticed me when they ask me, I don't want to move. Like if I'm bluffing or value betting, I don't want to move. And when they ask, like, can I see what you're playing? And I try to be conscious of how I show my chips. That's a good point. I've never heard that one before. That's a good one.
Oh,
So
cool.
you're saying if they're happy to show you the chips, they're bluffing. And if
More
they're
often, yeah,
and if
they're trying to project some confidence.
okay, wow. That's a good one.
They're not scared that you know their chip count.
Interesting. How about physical tells? You look for anything, pulse, feet, hands,
No, I try not
eyes.
to even look at people when I'm playing. Really, I just look at the chips, the pot, the cards. Look at the board.
Hmm.
I'll for sure look at people's heart rate when they start like pounding their chest. I think it generally means they're pretty excited about their hand. I don't know. I think it
How do you
tends
interpret? How do you interpret elevated heartbeat?
the way my brain interprets it is like they've been sitting in this chair for 4 hours and they've like not hit a set yet, and they fucking finally did it, and they just do not want to mess it up, and they're like fucking, and you're starting to tank, and they're like nervous that you're gonna fold, and this is like their one shot to get chips. That's kind of how I read it when I see their heart like pounding. Yeah.
See, there's. I used to think that having a elevated heartbeat means strength, but it could mean both. Like it could be nervous because they're bluffing, and it could be happy because they have a big hand. So I've seen it, and it's really player specific. But you think elevated heartbeat means happy that they have a big hand, that they finally hit a big hand. I've seen it
Yeah.
in both ways, weak and strong. But that's
It's very
interesting.
player dependent, right? You
Yeah, I
can't
agree
really
with you
say a
guys.
It is.
generalization.
It is player
Some
dependent.
players show off their nervousness more when they're value betting, and some players just are naturally more nervous when they're bluffing. It's different. Pay attention to the differences.
There's a really valuable tell here. I don't know if I want to share it
Give
live.
it away.
It's if you got to watch the pulse if it goes down or not. See,
Over
people get
time. Yeah.
excited. People get excited in both when they're bluffing and they're value betting. But if the pulse goes down after a while, that means they have a good hand because they're not nervous. But if they're bluffing, they're going to be nervous the whole time because they're nervous. You're going to call. But if
That's
they're
a good
nervous
one.
at first because they're excited, they have a good hand, but the pulse goes down. So if you're in the tank for like a minute and they're really excited at first, and you can see the pulse like their jugular is jumping out of their neck, and then it slows down a little bit afterwards. That means they have a good hand in general. But again, it's player specific too. I made a lot of mistakes, as far as live tells. So sometimes I go with my read, and it's a little. I look for little subtle things. Sometimes you can't even explain it. It's just like energy that person is giving off.
We got
But
to
I
get
do.
Jeremy's tells. He's got.
For me, it's a lot of
You think
the
Jeremy has tells?
specific stuff that people do. I feel like people will you can really pay attention to how people just like put their chips into the pot, like those little things, like their physical like attributes, how they put chips into the middle, how they're moving around, how they're adjusting everything. All those small details really like make impacts on
So,
my
so
decision.
explain like the specific. Let's say I'm betting. So, what are you looking for when I'm putting chips in the pot? Are you looking for like hesitation with my hands? Are you looking if I'm putting the chips close or far away from me? Because that's an old school tell from Mike Carroll, Book of Tells. I bought that book and I thought after reading it, I'm going to be a genius at the table and crush everything. It wasn't the case. You
Yeah,
remember that book? I don't know if you guys seen it.
I never
He,
read a book.
I've not read it yet. No,
he
I'm
had
sure I will.
it's actually pretty interesting. It's some of it still applies today. He had illustrations. He had like before and after pictures of players,
Mhm.
and he would have a player like looking at you and betting, and then if they have it, after they bet, they look away and never look at you.
Mhm.
See, looking at you, villain, like if they're looking at you or not means a lot. Sometimes they're trying to intimidate you when they bet and look at you, or if they're looking away, all that can be interpreted. Yeah, it was actually an interesting book back for its time. But Mike Caro never won a tournament, so I don't know. I don't know if his book applies.
I pay attention to the intention behind how they put chips into the middle. So people, if they're not specifically paying attention to how they put chips into the middle of the pot, they can give off information. You can just physically see like, oh, this person was hesitant. Oh, this person was confident putting chips in the middle. It seems like basic, but like if your opponent that you're playing against isn't specifically paying attention, they just give so much information just on that specific thing alone.
Interesting. Shane, what's your best tip for beginners in MTTs? Somebody just starting, like they're a month or 2 months old playing MTTs. What's the best tip for success?
I'll give you a couple. I'll go. You need charts. There's no way to play this game without a chart.
Good one.
I think a lot of players who are like, I'm a field player, or I don't use solvers or whatever. That's okay, but you literally just need to use the charts that solver provides you for pre-flop. You just have to. If you start opening like 3-6 suited under the gun or something, just because it's like pretty, or because like your table's soft or something, you'll just get destroyed. It's like not even profitable to begin with, even like with your edge, or like let alone like God forbid there's like a good player at the table like me, or someone who like sees you table 6-3 suited. Your game's done. Like you don't get to play poker anymore. You're gonna start opening and getting 3-bet like crazy. So it like you just need to be in line, especially if you're gonna play online. And if you're not, like anyone who's like eyes are open and is trying to win is gonna like immediately try and counter you. So get charts, and then number 2, I guess, is to like play online to get volume in, even if it's like a $1 tournament. You just have to you have to just play. Like kind of like what Jeremy says, he does it like live or whatever. He just like plays nonstop. It's okay, but he can play like 2 tournaments a day. If you just, even if you like don't have a huge monitor and you have a laptop, you can still play like 6 tournaments at a time.
Listen
can,
to this.
Play.
Since you brought this up about the 3-6 off, I've talked with amateurs before. Some people I was trying to help, and their excuse for opening something like 3-6 or 6-9 off, they'd be like, "Oh, you'll never put me on that hand."
Yeah.
This is not how poker is played. It's not about me trying to put you on a hand. It's about fundamentals in poker. Opening 3-6 off from under the gun is not going to win you money long term. It's going to bleed you so much money. It's not about me not putting you on that hand. Or yeah, so what you said really has so much weight.
Yeah,
I think add to what you said, Carl. Weak players tend to think in terms of specific hands, and better players tend to think in ranges and range construction.
On point. I always say to my coaching, think along your range versus their range, not your specific hand. And that's a concept that's like thrown around, and people don't understand how important it is, like because they don't know how to apply it in real time. They're always looking at their specific hand and continuing. Most amateurs, we like Hard Rock, Derby, those guys are just playing their specific hand.
Yeah.
I have a random question here.
My advice also, by the way, is just for regs. I mean, if you want to like just fucking ruin someone's day and you think it's funny and you don't really care about like making the most chips, play whatever hands you want. It's fun, it's funny, but just know that like the good players are looking for it and they're gonna attack back or whatever. But if the joy of poker for you comes from like surprising people, keep doing it. I don't care, but it's not gonna win.
That's what they go for. They go for surprise. Like they think
Yeah.
that's going to win them money. Another thing, since we're talking about getting out of line, how much out of line are you getting, and you're not like following charts when you see the table is like not 3-bet happy, and you're not getting 3-bet a lot? How loose are you getting from early? Because I've seen you get out of line, and I mean, you made my life miserable one time. It was like deep in the tournament. We're down to like 2 tables, and you 3-bet me like 7 times out of 8. It was almost like I was going to punch you. He was to my left and just like
This is not
3-bet.
a final table. Yeah.
I knew he was getting out of line, but you can't combat it because he had me covered.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People don't understand that if somebody has you covered and they're 3-betting you relentlessly, you can't combat it with aggression. Like you have to wait, tighten up, and wait for hands.
Yeah,
But
you just have
how
to.
much out of line are you getting on a table, like a soft table, like let's say a hard rock and the little slick? How much? So you said you apply charts, but how much you're veering off or deviating from GTO on a soft table like that, or are you not
Yeah,
deviating?
I think the answer, like, GTO solves this game and tells you how to like win, but the way to win more is to exploit harder. Because the solver's not trying to get max, it's trying to be balanced and trying to like equal out to zero. So like they'll always defend the appropriate hands. They'll always call down with like third pair and X line, and players don't do that. So like the solver's going to tell you to value bet like a strong second pair sometimes, but like maybe like deep in the big slick or whatever you're playing, they're only going to hero like top pair third kicker or something because there's so much pressure and they're like nitty. So you can't just like plug it into a solver and be like, I'm going to play the hand this way. It's good. So to answer your actual question of how out of line are you getting, the answer is as much as humanly possible. Yeah, it's but
That's
it's
good.
not in terms of like passive. It's not like Carl opened MP and I'm like cut off with like 7-9 suited and like I want to play this hand with Carl or something. It's always going to be like with my opens or with my three bets or with my turn barrel rate. It's going to be like me being aggressive. I'm not getting out of line like defending against your aggression.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't make money that way. Yeah.
We don't target people. I made that. I think in my coaching session, I said like sometimes people target you, but most of the time they're just playing their hand and just applying exploits, like you said. Like you don't want to play 7-9 against me personally. It's not like you're going after me. You're just
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to exploit as much as possible what the table is giving you. Um, what do you do when you have a strong hand but you're unsure, like by the river? Are you ever randomizing? Do you use randomization? Are you using live tells? Like you have a very close spot, it's a coin flip in your head. What are you doing?
I try to just weigh like all the factors that my brain can like handle. So I'll look at the clock a lot, see what the average chips are, how valuable this pot is, how valuable the chips in my stack are. Like, am I still average if I like bet here and it's too thin and I lose the pot or whatever? Or can I get four ladders on top of that or whatnot? So in terms of RNGing, I do it never. Just pure zero, never.
Explain what RNG is for the audience.
It's like, oh, this hand's supposed to call sometimes, and this hand's supposed to like raise sometimes. Let me roll for like a number between 1 and 100, and if it's 80, I'll call. And
So you randomize. RNG is randomizing,
yeah,
basically.
randomize. Yeah,
See, most amateurs don't randomize. Some professionals use like they look at their cell phone, and if it's like a odd number, they would fold, and if it's a even number, they would call. That's a concept that's a little advanced for amateurs. But you're not randomizing on the river. You're just. I'm saying you said bet. I'm saying like you're facing a bet. You're facing a big bet on the river, and you're unsure about. You have a strong hand, but you're unsure. The reason I brought that question up, it's I watched a short from Fedor Holtz, and he said versus amateurs, when he has a strong hand and he's unsure, he tends to fold, just because like those spots when you have like a flush on a paired board, like your hand is strong, but against certain players, they're just like never bluffing spots like these. And,
yeah,
and it happens a lot in real time. Like they're showing aggression, and it's almost like you have a feeling you're beat, but you still call just because you give them a bluff range, even though they have none.
yeah,
Those spots, they come up a lot.
yeah. I think Fedor's onto something. I think he's dead on. I really listen to like the people I admire, like Ben CB or Chance. I specifically remember Ben CB saying if you use a randomizer, you're retarded or whatever word you want to use. But specifically, he said there's no reason to ever use one, and I just took that to heart. I used to try to. It didn't really like. It's hard to even see if it makes a difference or whatever. It's gonna make a difference against a perfect opponent who like is gonna be like, oh, sometimes Shane could have this other hand, but in your scenario where like I'm facing like a tough river decision, my thought process starts with, do they deserve a hero call? And if they don't, I just never do it ever. Um,
Good
so
one.
if I've seen them do something cool or like respectable or like I think sometimes I'm good, I call. But just because I look at my hand and it's like a good one, like in the ranking, it's like up here. I don't call because of that. It's going to be specifically because they deserve it. I think
Hmm.
they're capable or whatever. Yeah. Like a lot of times, an amateur might show up to the river like 3-bet pot, I bet flop, I bet turn, and then like a river card comes out, and they just like donk jam river into you. I call this like 0% of the time ever. It's like as like an exploit or something you could call it, but like no one deserves to get called there because you have to like float flop, float turn, and then like have air on the river and jam it. So like even if I have like second set, I'll just muck. I'm not paying you.
I love the fact that you're using the word deserve because you're right. Like I always look for something creative by the river, and it's never creative. It's always
No,
like
it's value every
never
time.
creative.
Yeah.
Like Clyde might do something creative, but the rest that we play with, it's never creative. It's always the nuts. Okay, on the other spectrum, other side of the spectrum, when you have a weekend but you're on shore by the river, basically talking about hero calls. How often do you hero call?
Not much. Yeah, it's gonna be in the deserve category. It's gonna change though because like if it's versus like UTG and I'm big blind defend or whatever, it's gonna like always come down to like a thorough thought process of like I'm in the big blind, I have all these hands, I can actually call like so many things better than this. So some of those just get like folded right away. But there's other situations where it's like I'm cut off and he's button and he 3-bet me and it's like a rag. So like both the ranges are wide. Both of us like are trying to like win this pot because like it's late tourney or something. So like in those situations, I'm just way more apt to hero you than like versus a UTG triple barrel or something. Yeah. So it's gonna be a factor of how these ranges look.
It's a very good point. Clyde, do you have anything? Before
I do. Yeah.
once you ask that question, I'm gonna go. I have a hand set up from Negreanu. I watched it last night. It's a pretty interesting hand. I just want to share his thought process and show the GTO solution. But go ahead, Clyde.
Cool. Yeah, I like everything we've talked about so far. I find it really interesting hearing Shane's thought process on, in-game like decision making. I thought it was really cool. But I want to talk a little bit less about like no limit tournaments. I want to talk about what the future looks like for you, Shane. Do you ever? I know that I was with you in Biloxi, Mississippi, and you ended up playing. I believe it was a PLO 8 tournament.
Yeah, I love it.
You ended up final tabling that. It was, I think, your first time playing PLO 8s.
Yep.
I want to talk about sort of what the future looks like in terms of no limit, like other games besides no limit hold'em, like PLO mixed games, PLO cash. Do any of these things? Do you think they have a future in your career? Yes or no, and why?
So like the whole meta. I think online poker is basically out of my career. I'll still play Sundays and good series that run, but you see it on Twitter. Generally, the online circuit is dead. It's tough to compete. Everyone who plays online has a GTO with subscription. I'm not special. There's people who want it a little bit more than me, and I want it a lot. So I think online MTT is kind of dead. I think online cash is already pretty dead. Some people posted an image of them winning like 6 per 100 or something. Good for you, but you're like 0.001%. The live stuff I really enjoy. The live tournaments is dope. Live cash is still really good. Live PLO, I think even when like I said, I kind of had two careers, like the early phase when I just like lost money, and then now, even like in that early phase, like 10 years ago or whatever, people were saying like PLO is the future or whatever. And like there's still just like one game of PLO running everywhere. It's not like PLO is taking over. So I've heard people say like PLO is the future a lot. I guess it's like grain of salt to me. I don't really think so. The hands take 10 minutes to play out. The rake's high. All the equities run close, so you're just like chopping money a ton. The PLO high low was a really fun tournament. I just straight enjoyed that more than anything I've done in a long time. Every time they dealt me a hand, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the charts and shit, and I was just like really thinking, and that's what makes me love poker. Hold'em, I've kind of like already done a lot of the thinking, and I'm kind of just like running through motions. But with the high low, I didn't know if my hand was good or bad. I didn't know if I should value bet or not. I didn't know if they call too much or not. I don't even know what that looks like, and that was a blast. I'll play PLO high low tournaments anytime they run. That was fun.
Do mixed games in general have like
limit
a
high
for
low
you?
too, Carl. It was limit, so
Oh,
I couldn't fuck up. It's either like bet one big blind or check. So it was kind of like easy.
Question for you guys: do they have solvers for mixed games for PLO?
I don't think so. I think there's some like programs that like individual dudes made that they like run and you can maybe like rent or something. But there's no like mass market.
That's the reason why PLO is the future, because it's not solved and people don't study PLO. Yes,
It
the
is
answers
solved,
are
by the
close.
way.
There's a
It is
PLO
solved.
matrix. There's a matrix you can use, but it's nowhere near as pretty as GTO is. It's kind of like fucking annoying.
Maybe it's solved, but like people don't study enough. I feel like most PLO
100%.
players are degens. What material is there out there to study PLO, by the way? Besides,
I was just talking to a PLO player in Tampa. I won't mention his name. I was meeting up with him just an hour ago, and I was talking to him about exactly this. And he mentioned that there are solvers for PLO. Stuff that he mentioned were Munker solver actually has PLO apparently. And also, I know that Jay Nandez has his own PLO mastermind. He has his own software, like fully for everything, like pre-flop, post-flop. He has a very good system in play. So these things I think, are like kind of starting to come into the market, starting to become more accessible. But it's like nowhere near as in depth, nowhere near as progressed as No Limit solvers have become with the like invention of GTO Wizard AI. All of this stuff is so far and beyond more advanced than the PLO solvers. This stuff is just, as far as I know, is just starting to come into fruition.
interesting.
The Nandez PLO like mastermind. It's like, so in GTO is you can just plug in like the cards you have and it'll show you like a square of all the hands or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
PLO is like 250,000 hands pre-flop or something. It's insane. So sometimes it'll say like you need to call turn with like 10% of your aces, which is like, that concept is crazy. That means like you could get ace, ace, 2, 3 off, ace, ace, 2, 4, ace, ace, 2, jack, ace, ace, 2, 9, ace, ace, 3, 9. So like there's like a million aces you could get, and you need to call with like the top 10%.
10% of them. Wow.
Yeah, so you don't actually get to like see what that kind of like really looks like unless you like scroll and dig down. So it's super like,
it's more about hand classes than specific hand types. Specific, I mean, just because this is just a math problem, PLO just has way more combinations of hands, so it's going to be so much more challenging to solve for 4 cards than it is 2. But yeah, everything you're saying is correct, Shane.
All right, guys, let's go back to Hold'em, because I know most of our viewers are Hold'em players.
Me too.
In the live arena. Let's go to the Negreanu's hand. Break it down a little bit. I thought it was interesting. Let me set it up. It was heads up. I think it's a final table. Let me see what the event was. It was one of his series, How to Win at Poker. It was part 5. I forgot what the actual event was. It was PGT, Poker Go Studio event.
I'm excited.
Event, I think it's event 1, PGT Last Chance. Anyway, they were heads up at the final table. Negreanu has ace king off. Villain has Smilkovic. He had jack deuce of diamonds. Negreanu has ace king on the button. He limps in the hopes of going for a limp raise in case the big blind raises, but the big blind just flats. Negreanu has about 44 big blinds. Villain has about 31 big blind. And they go to a flop of jack, jack 10 rainbow. The interesting spot happened on the turn. Let me set up the video. Let me share the screen here. 1 second.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to. Are we going to watch it in real time, or are you just going to talk about it?
I'm just going to watch. We're just going to watch his a breakdown before they get to the turn.
Okay.
Here, 1 second.
So Villain has
additional equity.
3 of a kind. It's a good hand.
Villain flop trips on a jack, jack 10. Villain checks.
Negreanu was seriously considering something here.
Can we go on full screen?
0.3 million.
Full screen?
Not too long ago, Negreanu was down to just a few
How's that?
lines. Now all of a sudden,
it's still the same, but it's fine.
I don't think we can go full
playing
screen.
an enormous pot.
Okay,
here.
that's fine.
This is check raise flop.
And
Daniel
we can
calls.
see that he only has 4 outs
4
against the
and he
trips of his
bets.
opponent.
You know what?
Negreanu. Oh, what?
This is he bets pot on turn.
This is turn. I'm gonna call the action flop and turn. Flop. Negreanu bets third pot, and Smilkovic goes for a 3.5x raise, and Negreanu calls. And Negreanu's breakdown here, he said that Villain has a bunch of bluffs like 8-9, 7-8, Queen-8, Queen-9, all the open-ended straight draws, all the gut shots. And he said sometimes he has 10x that he would take that line with. And then so he calls. Of course, he has the queen to make a straight. Sometimes he's going to be drawn dead if Villain has tens, but would he play tens like that? I don't know. So the interesting action happened on the turn, on the 4 of clubs turn.
Smilkovic can never have tens, right? Because Negreanu limped the button, and then Smilkovic checked his option, right?
Yeah, they both check pre-flop. The interesting action is on the turn when Smilkovic leads, like bombs pot. He bets like 80% pot. I think the pot was like 1.5 million. He bets like 1.3 million. And Negreanu tank shoves the rest of the chips. And here where it gets dicey, and he goes into a long explanation of why. And he kind of said, I don't know if he's plugged it into solver. Like, this is where we're going to show you what the GTO solution is. He goes into an explanation of why it's the best course of action. Let's listen to what he says. Like, what's his breakdown?
Wow, he moves all in. Smilkovic snaps it off, and Daniel Negreanu looking for a queen and a queen only to win this one.
Of course,
he
he
think about
breaks
Jack too.
If the queen doesn't come, Smilkovic will have a massive chip lead, and all of a sudden, the roles will reverse. 4 outs for Kit Poker.
I'm going to fast
seal
forward
the
here,
deal here.
and hear Negreanu's
Only 9%.
breakdown.
Clubs. Now there are 2 clubs on board. Importantly, as I mentioned, we do not have a club, and that matters in this situation, and I'll explain why as we move along. Now he bets 1.3 into 1.
Matters a tiny bit.
It matters if he pots turn
Decision
with flush
time
draws.
for us.
I don't know if
Let's
he
hear
would.
his breakdown, and I want
We
to
have
hear
too strong of a hand to
guys',
just fold. Okay,
feedback.
because again, we're still ahead of all of his bluffs, and because as I said, we don't have a club. We don't block any of his bluffs. So if I had the king of clubs in my hand or the ace of clubs in my hand, that's less combos of potential hands that check raise the flop. Like say he had king 5 of clubs. Well, we know he can't have that because we have the king of clubs. So we unblock his bluffs. And he's going to have a lot of bluffs here. He's going to have the queen 8. He's going to have the king 9, the 8-9, any 2 clubs like queen 3 clubs, all these types of hands for this size. So with that size, now he's fully polarized. This is never a 10. He's not betting almost pot with jacks and 10s, right? He's gonna go smaller if he even bets. He's probably going to check a lot too. So he's saying, hey man, I got a jack or I got a draw. That's it. I got a hand that turns some equity. So the decision for us is, do we want to call, which is the standard line, and we looked at the solves on this, and I know that, and I knew that as I was thinking about it. What I didn't know about my opponent at this stage was how he would proceed on different rivers. What if the river's an 8? Is he going to bluff king 9? I wasn't sure.
I'm going to fast
Bluff
forward.
means you don't think you have the best hand. I'm not raising this turn because I don't think I have the best hand. I'm raising to deny equity, so it's a value bet. Everything's either a value bet or a bluff. It's not a.
What do you think about what he says here? He says he raised turn as a value bet. What does he mean by value bet? He has ace high.
He thinks he'll get called by worse.
Yeah, I mean, the times Villain has bluffs, I don't think he's going to even call. Like, if he has gut shots, if he has open-ended, that's the thing. It's like a situation where you're only getting called by better hands. So I don't know.
This isn't a value bet or a bluff. It's just like, I hope I'm good. I'm all in.
Well said. This is the GTO solution, by the way. Let me share the...
I want to hear more of Shane's thoughts on what he thinks about the turn jam. Do you like the play? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Why do you think Daniel Negreanu made the play?
I think he's scared, man. I think, like he said, he doesn't know what this guy's going to do. So maybe he should have paid more attention earlier or something. But in terms of like the actual strategy, I think it starts pre-flop. I think Daniel's already trying to get like tricky by limping ace king, which means he thinks this guy's aggressive or something because it's not a limp. And Daniel knows it's not a limp. He's trying to like exploit or whatever, be tricky. So
Which
if
is
he
fine
thinks if he thinks
sometimes.
this guy's aggressive, let him bluff. I don't know, call turn.
Are you ever shoving turn?
0% of the time, yeah, never.
Are
If this
you
says to
Clyde?
do it, sometimes I'm not. But
Would I ever shove the turn? I would never shove the turn here. I would only ever consider call or fold. And I think I would probably snap fold this hand against the players I play against. But against an actual tough player in these types of fields, then I think the decision's pretty simple to just call.
when ranges are this wide, it's a limp check flop. Just Negreanu has every jack also. He doesn't have to do this. They both have just a million jacks.
Yeah. I think this is something that you see a lot in fish. They get to certain spots where they think that they have the best hand right now, but they don't know how to proceed on rivers. They're scared to get to a river and have to face a decision on the river because they don't know what's going to happen. So they just make the decision very simple for themselves. So they go all in on the turn and hope to take down the pot. It's a simple strategy, but it's not going to be the most effective strategy.
Yeah, I see it live a lot. It's just the easy decision, so you don't have to face big tough decisions. I see fish do that all the time.
And this isn't just about the specific spot where it goes check raise turn, bet pot on the turn. That's a hard spot, but there's so many spots in poker where recreationals will always look to take whatever is the simplest option. Like, it's simple to just bet 9x pre-flop with jacks under the gun and take down the pot. It's simple. It's not hard. I'm not gonna get a lot of tough spots when you do that, but it's not gonna be the most optimal strategy, is it?
Well said. No, it's not. Of course, this is the GTO solution, by the way. Ace King is never shoving. I plugged it in here. GTO is not Wizard is not giving us Ace King off because Ace King off is a pure open pre-flop. Ace King suited is, do you see all in here is 0%. It's never going all in. None of the Ace King are going all in. And if we put strategy or we put EV, it's losing us like 2 big blind. The shove is minus EV, of course. Except the Ace King of clubs has some equity. It's 0.89, like less than 1 big blind.
The reason this handle, like this shows up on the solver in full weight too, is it wants to limp Ace King suited, so it can play like a limp 3-bet strategy, like a non.
It just realizes better post flop, way better than Ace King off.
Well, but it's gonna limp, and then if they ISO to 3, he's gonna make it like 8 or something.
Yeah.
But other hands can like jam. That's why like the Ace Jack off doesn't show up or something on your screen.
I'm curious to hear what kind of bluffs he's taking as a limp, like in heads up. I haven't studied a lot of heads up. I guess I'm sort of deviating off of the conversation, but I just like curious, like what the solver's like limp 3-betting. Is it just like offsuit, like garbage type hands, like King 5 off as bluffs, or like what hands do we derive that class of limp raise?
Ask that question again. You said.
So Shane just said that Ace King suited is limping on the button in heads up as a trap to limp raise to get more value and induce another raise or whatever, because he's just trying to get as much money in the middle as possible. But that's a value hand. What kind of bluffs would we want to do? Would we want to play heads up?
They do
at the stack depth as a limp raise.
Polar. They have a polarized range of opening and like a 3-bet. Sometimes bluffs like the complete trash and the value hands.
Is it just like a hand like Jack 3 suited, Jack 6 off, King 4 off? Is it these types of polarization?
I do it sometimes blind on blind. Like I have a polarized range blind on blind. I'm opening all the really good hands and all the trash hands that I don't want to see flop with. Or if I go to a flop, I'm taking the aggression line because it gives me a better chance at winning the pot. So complete trash, like 7 deuce, 9-3, those hands that I don't want to fold. But not 100%, not at 100% frequency, but just you know what a polarized range is. It's your trash and your value hands.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Yeah, for blind on blind, it's going to be different because you'll actually want to like be polar towards the bottom of your range that can consist of like 100% of hands or something. So like so it actually might be 7 deuce, 7-4, whatever. But then when it comes to like a limp, he ISOs and you 3-bet, the polar part can move up, so it might end up like it probably wouldn't be like a 7-2, 7-3. It'd probably be like a king 3 or like a queen 6 or something. You want like a high and a low card. But then for the viewers who aren't as nerdy, when Carl says like polarized there, it's kind of the difference between like the 30 big blind stack stuff that I like and the 200 big blinds. And like 200 big blinds, you'll want to like maybe like limp 3 bet something like a 4-5 suited, like a hand that has like a ton of playable potential when you put in a ton of chips. But like in tournaments, you don't like ever limp 3 bet 4-5 suited because it's a fucking like great hand to see a board with.
Like
And
this
you
is
might get
that's a good
denied
point.
seeing a
This-
board.
It's
But
a
when you
great
have
point,
like
Shane.
king 3 offsuit, it doesn't matter if you don't see a board.
Like
You
this
have a
is
polar hand.
sorry, this is a heads up opening chart for heads up small blind versus big blind. Like I mean, we're opening everything basically. Some limps, like aces is limping at a certain frequency, ace king suited is limping at a, but this is what it looks like basically. I don't see many limps. Like GTO is not limping much from the small blind, which is
When you're this deep, it's gonna have way more raises like this. If you lower this to like 20 big blinds, it's gonna have a lot more limp too.
Is
So-
this
so-
is this heads up with an ante, by the way? Because that makes a
Limp
huge
went from 35% on the last chart to limp 72% here. It's just a
Wow.
huge difference.
good
It's like
point.
now you actually need to see these flops because you have half a chip out there or whatever. So you want to like call the half a chip more with virtually like every suited hand. Yeah.
That's a very good point. We're doing a lot of limps with 20 big blinds. There's a lot more limping going on than opening.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see this a lot, like small blind versus big blind. This is always gonna be like a huge important thing because you're gonna see a lot of like flops, blind versus blind. So this is like important not just for heads up play, but just blind versus blind play in general.
And see how we're opening all our value hands here and the trash, like A3 suited, A4 suited, 9-4 suited. It's basically a polarized range. And some middling hands are opening and limping too. Jack
Yeah.
10, Jack 9 suited. Jack 9 suited is like, I don't know how the solver mixes sometimes. Like Jack 9 suited, we're doing a lot of limps, some opens. Jack 10 suited is opening more often, like almost 70% open, 30%.
I think Jack 10 suited's just opening to call off a jam too, in theory. I'm pretty sure.
Probably off of a 20 big blinds, yeah. Well said. All right, let's go back. That was a nice section. I think we covered a lot of topics here. I like it. I was gonna go to the. We're at the hour mark right now. Let's go to the chat. There's a lot of questions from the chat. Let's fire them real quick. Gabe Fuller. We're gonna get Gabe Fuller on the pod here.
He's
pretty
awesome,
soon.
man. I like that guy a lot.
Yeah, Gabe is
Cool.
a
I like
crusher
it.
right now. Gabe on Instagram asked, "What structure, format, or rule change would you like to see more of added in tournaments to make the game better?"
Better. I wonder what he means by that. I think mystery bounties are fucking awesome. I think I already asked E to run them. He said they can't because the tribe views it less as a skill game or whatever. But I think mystery bounties are really fucking cool. I think it also would like help regs to play mystery bounties too, even though like a lot of the prize pool is kind of like caught up in luck. You have 2 chances to win. You can win the tournament or you can just get fucking lucky. So like it might reduce variance. You might get to realize more money. So I think mystery bounties are fun for fucking just everybody involved. I saw Doug Polk ran at the lodge like a fun week of tournaments. That was so exciting. I almost went to that, but I would have had to like travel and lose money, like expenses. But they ran tournaments like if the river was a red card, you put out an extra card. They called it like the ocean. So it's called like Blood Ocean or something. So you get to the river, a red card comes out, boom, there's a 6 card out there. I think anything fun would be cool as shit if like Tampa or someone nearby wanted to run like fun tournaments.
Well,
They had a
Derby
mystery
ran an ocean
bounty.
tournament.
What's that?
Derby ran an ocean tournament like
Awesome.
2 weeks back. Yeah, interesting.
That'll give me like personally the same feeling I had when I played that like high-low tournament where I get to like think. I get to think during the hand and be like, oh shit, what if I did this? And then, I got a little bit of edge out of that. Who knows? And then like I can tell my friend and he'll be like, dude, you're stupid. That's not how you should do it. You should do this. And then we just start talking and figuring out like a new game. They also ran a mystery bounty tournament at the lodge where it was like there was like punishments. You get a bounty, you pull it out of the hat, and it just says like sit out 1 orbit. That's hilarious. That's so funny. You just like you get punished for knocking somebody out. One of the tickets said just go straight to the final table. That's so cool. You could just like leave your chips, go get some beers, text all your buddies, and then just show back up at the final table with the average stack.
Wow,
sounds
that's
like
a great
awesome.
concept. But
That's
imagine
awesome.
you have like 30 big blinds in this blind level where you got to jump to the final table when the blinds are higher with that stack.
You
which-
get average stack.
you get average
hand
stack.
you average. Yeah. And if that bounty is in play at the final table and you get it, they add an average stack to your stack.
This is like playing Snake. You know that
Yeah.
game back in the. I don't know if you guys were around with that game. It's you pick up you know the game Snake. It's like a board game, and you
Snake
throw
and
that-
ladders.
Yeah, Snake and Ladders.
Okay. Yeah, I
Like,
know that one. Yeah.
you how you jumped from being
Like way everyone's like, what the hell just happened? You're like, I
jump
got
to the
lucky. I
final
don't know.
table. It's like going up the ladder to the final levels.
Yeah. So
Um,
in terms of that stuff, it'd be fun. In terms of like a real answer to his question, I think longer structures are good. I think Tampa kind of nails some structures. The blind levels are solid. I don't really have complaints here. Any tournament that kind of has like a 20K starting stack, like everything they run over in Hollywood with like a 20K stack is pretty brutal and kind
You
of
know
ends
what?
up in you shooting a lot of bullets.
This is shout out to
Yeah.
what's his name? No, the who runs the WPT?
Matt Savage.
Shout out to Matt Savage. This is something I wanted to address a long time ago. Those 20K starting stack in Hollywood, those tournaments they run, the WPT tournaments, they have a 400 opener with 20K starting stack, and they have a 10K event with 20K starting stack. Give the players 30K. In 2024, nobody gives 20K anymore. We're playing dailies with 30K starting stack. Why are you giving the players? I see the point because they want you to fire again and build the prize pool, but it sucks for the players. Some players complain that no, if you're a good player, it's still deep. It's still deep stack early when the blinds are like because it starts I think at 100, so you're starting with like 200 big blinds, but the early levels don't play as they're supposed to. Like the amateurs are not playing early levels correctly. They're opening 6-7x. They're building pots early, so the stacks are going in even level 1. They're not playing like the pros opening 2x and 3x. They're opening 6-7x, and most spots are going multi-way. So it's a shit show early on. Give the players 30K so they can have room to maneuver. That 20K is like terrible, I think.
Also, the rake situation is kind of meh. Like some of these like $300 tournaments have like $80 rake or something. Here in Tampa, there's like a derby $500 like rake free. That one's fucking awesome. Any tournament you run with rake free, it's like you could run like a $400 100K. That's like an exciting big-ish tournament, but they rake $70, so it's like a 330 goes to the prize pool. Or you can run like a $200 rake free. That one probably has a higher ROI, even though it's just like a $200 10K or something. But there's no rake.
Shout out to TD Derby Lane, Brian. He's trying, man. This guy is trying. He's trying.
Like
Yeah.
a free.
He's putting out
18%
great
ROI.
tournaments. He also has tournaments this entire month. I heard that they're doing a $300, $500, and $700 no rake tournament this month. So definitely, or next month, I'm talking about. So definitely check that out. I want to say we are kind of pushing the time quite a bit with these questions, so we probably just want to.
Well,
Because we want to get through these questions pretty quick.
Yeah,
we have more questions to answer from the.
Yeah, let's answer them. We have like 6 or 7 more questions, and we'll wrap it up. But shout out to Brian. He's going to run a series, I think, next month, and I told him I'm going to get him on here, do like a short 1-minute clip, and post it to promote the series. He wants to run a 250K. I'm not sure the exact date, but we'll get him on here and help him
That'd be
promote.
sick.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm not sure about the buy-in, but I'll help him out. Clayton Antonius on Facebook asks, "What have your adjustments been from the online streets to the live tournament circuit?" And yeah, let's answer this one first, and he has another section too.
Some things have changed. It's like when I play online, I don't really ever have to sell action or something because the buy-ins are like 100, 200, a high roller's 500. But when you go live, everything's like 500 plus. So I'll have to definitely like sell action when I play live for anything like 1,000 plus.
I think what he means by adjustment means like as far as strategy. From online to live.
I'm trying to think.
Ranges wise, like are your opening ranges are the same? Are you more balanced when you play online, less exploitative?
Online, I have this HUD that just tells me stats on everybody, so I'm probably more exploitative online because I actually know what they're doing. Like their cutoff open is 60%. I know that they're too wide. When I go live, there's no number telling me that Carl opens 33% from the cutoff. I have no clue. So I guess live I'm paying a ton more attention and trying to figure out like how loose you are in a spot. But I'd say it's, I guess, less exploitive live, and I have to kind of like wait to find out if I can do what I want to do. Live, I also have to deal with more limp pots. So there's ways to kind of study limp pots I've been working on with HRC, where you can like give them limp ranges and run like an individual solve for limps. Yeah.
We're gonna end with this question. This is something I wanted to ask, and I forgot to add it on my questions. Limp pots, because that's something we face a lot in the live scene. Because I know you've done some studies on limp pots. The
Yeah.
other section of Clayton's question: what stack size are you most and least comfortable with, and why?
I think I'm pretty filthy at like 10, 20, and 30.
Filthy.
Literally even like 8 bigs. I think I can do some really cool shit. Like check min raise bluffs or like raise folds off 8 or something that kind of maybe throw people off. Most comfortable is probably 25. Least comfortable is just like 50 plus. I think 50 I'm pretty perfect at. Maybe it could be better at 50, but once we get above there, it's rough. Yeah.
Interesting. Typical tournament player.
Yeah.
The least comfortable. Okay, this is a question he's been firing every time we have to answer it. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Duck size. The 100 duck size horse.
One horse-sized duck, so it's a duck that's the size of a horse, or 100 duck-sized small horses. 100
The 100 small. You just
100 small. That's a lot
Yeah.
of horses, but yeah, you do a lot of kicking.
wait. Oh, hold on. It's like a duck, like a mallard, like by the lake. I'm
By the
picturing
lake.
a rubber ducky, like a tiny little.
No, like an actual live duck by the lake, but it's horse-sized, and it's one.
Okay.
Or 100 of them, but they're small size.
Those are pretty big. Those are like a foot big. Those tiny ones. Okay, I'll probably do the one big one then.
That's a bloodbath.
I'm going with the one big one too. I think
One
it's
big
just it's simpler. I don't want to get trampled over, you know.
And if you lose, if you die, it's not as painful.
That's like
Not as
playing
embarrassing. Good
a
point.
video game and you're like facing the final boss. The final boss is the big duck, the horse-sized duck.
Yep, we got the answer.
Elden Ring or something.
Our boy Curtis King, you know Curtis.
Oh, shout out to
How
Curtis.
is your mental game on a scale of 1 to 10, and what are some of the best ways you've dealt with the inevitable downswing in tournament poker? Our boy is going through a downswing right now. That's probably why he's asking.
Me too. Yeah.
Shout out to Curtis. Curtis is a crusher. We might get him
Some
on
of
the
Curtis's downswing is self-inflicted. Some of it for sure.
Oh, okay.
Some of
Shots
my
fired.
downswing- I'm
Shots
always on the downswing, so he can throw it back to me if he wants. But how do I deal with
You're
it?
on a downswing? Didn't you just win 100K or something in the last 3 months?
No. Yeah, I'm on a downswing. I just lost like 12 in Cherokee for nothing. I deal
Wins
with it by, like,
100K, loses 12K. I guess Shane's on a downswing.
Downswinging right now, hard.
Downswinging super hard.
I just laugh about it a lot. I don't know. So say you lose like 30K, you just text the buddies. They're complaining about some hand, and you're just like, me too, man. I keep losing too. And then you just talk about like working at McDonald's or whatever you'd have to do if you lost all your money. I don't know. My grandpa was a cool dude, and one of the like lessons he left me before he died was just laugh things off, man. So
I like it.
laugh it
I like
off
it
and deal with it.
I like it. Joshua Nicholson on Facebook asked, for recreational players like myself wanting to better their game, how would you weigh volume versus study in terms of importance? So how much are you studying? How much are you playing?
Dude, I think someone like him or anyone else who just wants to get better, they could just fire tournaments anytime they're free. Their wife will let them go out or whatever. Just play. You don't even have to study, dude. Just fucking play the tournament and then just text somebody how you busted and then what happened or what you could have done different, and just talk about the hands. And hopefully it's someone who's like smart. Don't just text some random dude. But I don't know. Fucking talk to Clyde and be like, what would you do here? And Clyde will give you like a little feedback, or I'll give you a little feedback, and then just like play another tournament tomorrow. And just, it's so easy to get good like that. I think.
See, it's so
Trial
hard.
and error.
Just from talking with other people. Interesting.
Yeah.
Not to be conceited or anything, but I have people tell me sometimes they want to discuss hands, but I know they don't know poker as much as I do. So, like, I know some of these guys, if I want to discuss poker, they're getting all the benefits. I'm not getting any.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to find that one guy that's like slightly better than you or on the same level that you can. I had a group long time ago that I discussed poker, and they were all like good and they were studying. But now I have nobody. Clyde, do you have? Oh, you have Shane now.
Yeah. I talked to Shane. I talked to Curtis some for hands. I honestly, I've been doing some crazy shit recently. I haven't been talking to many people about the hands that I've personally been playing. I answer a lot of questions that people ask. I get all the time, maybe like 5 times a day. I get people asking me hands. And to be honest, I know that I'm probably losing EV, losing money by helping people out. I just love poker, man. I just love talking about poker. I can't help myself. If someone wants my feedback, I'll give you my honest feedback. I just love
Why do you
talking
say
about
you're
poker.
losing EV? Because you're making them better, and then you're gonna face.
I'm making people better who I'm going to be playing against on a regular basis, and I know that's like not going to be good for my bottom line, but I don't know. I'm not going to say no if someone goes through all the effort to come up to me and ask me for questions about the game that I love. I will give. I might not like give them a full book or like ask every single. If they ask me like hands every single day, I'm gonna answer. But like if someone goes through all that effort, I think you have to help them out.
Austin Sullivan on Facebook asks, "Why pink hair? Is Justin Bonomo one of your idols/inspiration to be a professional poker player?"
The reason for the colorful hair is just because I did it once. I got some compliments on it, and I just kept dyeing my hair. But also, I tell people I'm like already kind of receding. You know, like I'll go bald eventually, and I'll be like, dude, I wish I could dye my hair, but I don't have any hair, so I'm just trying to have some fun before it goes away. You know,
Look into finasteride, by the way. They have drugs for that.
some hair thing. Yeah, hair
Yeah, it
transplant up
blocks
here.
the hydrotestosterone. That's what causes male pattern baldness.
But no thoughts on Bonomo. I
Or
don't.
get an implant like Negreanu.
I might end up doing that too. Yeah.
I'm joking. Daniel Abato on Facebook asks, "What suggestion do you have for someone trying to navigate mid to late stages of a tournament?" So suggestions for mid to late stages.
Look at the clock a lot. See how close you are to the bubble. You should be really hard on yourself if you bubble a tournament. It's painful, and a lot of times there's something you can do different. You need to like early in a tournament. It's okay if you just kind of like willy nilly put some chips in because there's no risk premium. There's no you don't lose much. Like say you start with 20K chips and you win it all in, and you have 40K chips. It's worth fucking nothing. It's like you just gained like $20 because you're not going to cash that tournament much. Two stacks doesn't help.
It doesn't double your chances of winning. That's a good point.
No, exactly. But like when you're 10 from the money and you lose 20K chips, you might have just lost like $190. Like it should suck. So care a lot more when you're near the bubble. Like
I think people do. I think
about every chip
do care.
Yeah.
Daniel Lobato again on Facebook. GTO I think we covered this, but we'll go over it. GTO versus exploitative poker and a typical Tampa poker scene. So in the dailies, are you going GTO or exploitative?
Just exploit everything. I think people see online players and they think they're all GTO nerds, and we all study GTO like crazy, only so that we can exploit. That's the goal. The goal is to figure out what the right answer is, figure out what they're not doing, and then exploit. No one's just like, this hand's a 4-bet, got to do it.
I wouldn't say that's everyone. I would say that's what good online players do, but there's certainly player types. There's certain player types who are just strict GTO, and it's always been a discussion that people have talked about, and it's always been something that I've been like, I don't agree with strict GTO. It just doesn't make any sense for me.
That's what I tell my students in coaching, because they ask me like, when I give them charts for like, opening charts and stuff, I say, always keep your creativity live. Always keep your creative side alive. But it's good to know the GTO, but doesn't mean you're going to apply it 100% in game.
Yeah.
So it's good to know the fundamentals, but then, in real time, just be as creative as you can. I mean, when I say creative, doesn't mean like, opening 3-6 like we talked about earlier, but taking lines that are not GTO, kind of like the Negreanu line, the shove on the turn, and he kind of explained why, even though GTO doesn't approve.
I don't think that was a good exploit, though. I just think that was a bad play.
I don't like it either. I don't like that line at all. Even though he
But-
tried. Sometimes we make mistakes and we try to justify with words like denying equity and this and that. But
I would rather he call turn because, well, obviously we know call turn is good because you're ahead of a lot of bluffs. I would rather he call turn and just overfold river, because on river he's not gonna know. Like he said, he's like, I don't know if this guy's gonna send the hands on river or not. He just doesn't know. I would rather you just call turn and just overfold the river than do what he did. I think what he did will lose more.
call on turn all day. If he hit the ace or a king, he's going broke because he's gonna call off just because the other guy has a ton of bluffs and he's capable.
He might call off on a 2 or a 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna call off a lot. And
Danny,
that's what he's scared of. Yeah.
We have 3 more questions and we're gonna wrap it up. Danny asks, I've noticed lately that that's a good point actually. I've noticed lately that quite few winning cash players have been having good results in tournaments. I think he's referring to Diego, and he's referring to, I think his last name is, I hope I don't butcher his last name, Uyez, and Ross Corliss. Why do you think that is? So why do you think the cash players are having good results?
I think something cash game players do really well is like unbound themselves from like the rules and just go for max. Because some people have like a rule of like, if you bet river, it should be for more than half pot. Maybe someone like sets up that rule, and that's in your brain, and that's how you kind of think about it. But I think when I see cash players show up, sometimes they get to a river and they're just like, I think this guy's got a pair of 5s, man. I'm gonna bet a 6th pot. I think he'll call with a pair of 5s. But like some tournament like Wizards or whatever are really cautious about maybe not reopening river action and facing tough decisions because we're deep in a tournament and like this is rare and I don't get that deep that often, so I don't want to like fuck this up, so I'm just gonna check back. But sometimes those like cash players like don't have those thoughts of like how rare this situation is or how this downswing could end right here. They don't care. They're just like, I think he's got a 7, man, and I think he'll pay. So they bet like a little juicy amount. I think they milk quite a bit more than an attorney reg.
They have good. They have good post flop. Their game is really good post flop too. So they might make mistakes pre flop, but they make up for it post flop. As far as aggression too, they're always aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Ross plays
so,
a
yeah.
big game. He's used to high pressure situations. Diego played a really good game. I watched him and I was impressed actually with his.
I've never played with him. Only in cash.
He was at my table and he was to my left. He was like not 3-bet happy. He was 3-betting certain hands, playing really good post flop. His sizing was on point. So yeah, those guys are good to begin with in cash, and I think they made the necessary adjustments. To
I think they'll for sure fuck up certain parts. I think cash players see a hand like ace jack suited or king queen suited, and like they've only ever 3-bet those hands in cash games, and in tournaments it's often like a really big blunder to do that with hands that want to see flops. Yeah.
I want to say something about Diego. I played with him, I think last month or at the start of this month in 10-10-20 at the Hard Rock at Tampa. And I swear it was so frustrating because I just got 3-bet him like 6 or 7 times over the course of like 2-3 hours, and I had bottom of range every single time. But yeah, he was obviously a very strong, competent opponent. I'm not surprised that he had a good results in the main event.
He is competent, but then again, not to take away anything from their accomplishment, but you never judge somebody on a small sample size. Somebody binking a main event or something doesn't mean they're all of a sudden crusher. Anything can happen in one tournament. But I'm not taking again away from their capability.
I would argue something that I think the vast majority of players are drawing dead to ever win like a main event field. Like 90% of those, maybe 95% of the players who enter that main event have 0% chance to ever win that tournament. So I think it says something that to be able to even just win the tournament itself.
True. You have to do a lot of things right to be able to win, and things have to go your way. People don't understand the variance. Thoughts on Danny again asks thoughts on max late regging. When do you prefer to enter and why? Yeah, that's a topic we haven't covered yet.
I think for any tournament that matters, you should be there level 1. If you're playing like a daily and it doesn't matter to you or something, max late reg makes sense. I think in terms of like the actual math of it, the most EV will be a level 1 registration, and then like the second most EV will be a max late reg. I think anything in between is slightly less EV. So like if you're like 4.5 levels in and you're starting with like 35 bigs, it's going to be slightly less EV than a max late reg, and also less EV than a starting late reg. Yeah.
Matthew McGinnis, that's the last question from the chat. Where are your daily habits that attribute to your success? We covered that a little bit, but you can talk about it again if you want. Eating healthy, the gym, study online or books. Do you take short breaks between tournaments, like a few days off here and there? So let me break it down. So daily habits that attribute to your success first. He's breaking it down as far as eating healthy, gym, study online or books.
Anytime I do like a little chore, I get like dopamine and excitement. I feel like I fucking like did something. So even if it's like cleaning up my computer or like cleaning the bathroom, so a lot of like cleaning stuff I really enjoy. That kind of gets me started. I don't eat great. I have fast food and Chipotle a decent amount, but the working out's been pretty consistent for the past like 5 months, getting some decent results. So the gym's been helping. We got a pool outside. I swim in, get some sunlight.
Any
I
book
don't
recommendations?
What's that?
Do you have any book recommendations?
I don't read. Yeah, not really.
Okay.
I'm on my computer a ton, so when I'm not playing poker, I'm like playing video games or something. Real chill kind of life. I don't really have too many responsibilities other than like the cat you saw. Every night I'm up till like 3 a.m. playing video games with like my best friends. That just gives me a ton of happiness. Yeah, I think the happiness kind of fuels you for like whatever else. And then I'm virtually talking poker just all day with the guy I mentioned earlier, Rock Notes, and then a couple other friends who just play cash. They're kind of teaching me some cash stuff, or I'm teaching them some tourney stuff. So I guess I'd have low responsibilities. I do all the shit that I like, and then I just trying to stay on top of what keeps me in good shape, I guess. Yeah.
Well said. Let's wrap it up with one question. As for multi-way pots, I said I'm going to ask you that question. We'll wrap it up with that question. Multi-way pots, what kind of studying are you doing, and how are you exploiting players in multi-way pots? Like, let's say there's a bunch of limps in front of you. What sizing are you using? How often are you opening? What range are you squeezing, not opening? What range are you squeezing? Is it like linear? Is it polarized?
Yeah, super dynamic question. The answer to this can change like real fast. There's going to be times where it's like 3 limps in front of you and you've got like 12 bigs. You actually just need to have an insanely good hand to jam, because you're going to get called. They don't care about 12 bigs. The dude who has 110 bigs in front of him and limped is going to call you. He's going to call you with like Jack 9, just cuz.
So you're saying if
like,
there's 3 limps, you're going 12x?
No, like I'm saying, like if you have 12 bigs in your stack and you're trying to
if you have 12 bigs, I got you.
And then like if you have like 25, now you can actually like jam and get folds. So now like when you have 25, you can jam lighter than when you have 12, even though you have like half the chips.
A little fold equity 25, less fold equity 12.
So I'm gonna have a really polar range if it goes like limp, 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 and I'm on 20 and I raise. It's gonna be really good fucking hands. Or like the polar part will be like ace jack offsuit, like a hand that I would hate to go multi-way with, but I'll fold if someone jams. So it's not going to be like ace 2 offset or something. But
so let's say you're deep. Let's say you have 50 or 40 big blinds. Where are you squeezing with, and what sizing are you using? Let's say there's 3 limps in front of you and it gets to you with like 50 bigs, let's say.
Am I like button or big blind?
Yeah, button cut off your late position.
I probably overlimp like a lot of pairs and then just squeeze the linear range. I'm only really going to be like polar from the big blind, and the polar when you're that deep is going to be like a suited hand. So I might go like limp, 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 and then I have like 7-5 suited in the big blind. That would be kind of like a polar hand that when we're that deep that can play. But when you're like shallower, it's going to shift drastically to like an ace X or king X heavy hand. But yeah, the question is just super dynamic, and it's going to depend on like the limper's range too, because some people actually only limp like you said, that the really strong hands, like the ace jack suited jacks. And if that person's in the hand, I can't do like any exploit, because like they have their really nitty limper. So like when I get dealt like king jack offsuit, they're just gonna ruin me.
Another thing to consider is in those spots, very, very rarely you're gonna squeeze and get folds. Like
Yeah.
they're continuing really wide and they're continuing almost 100% of the time. You're always getting like at least one, or sometimes you get all four, like all
Yeah.
three.
The first person
Three
opens
limpers.
the floodgates.
Yeah, let's say you squeeze for like 8, 9 bigs, and the first person call, and it snowballs. They all call. Now you're playing like your stack size is like SPR gets very low. And what are you doing post flop? Like, are you playing straight forward? It's hard to navigate, really. You got to play straight forward when it goes four ways.
Yeah. I think that's probably like, you remember the old school like Daniel Negreanu stuff, or like small ball.
Yeah.
I think that's like the perfect application is going to be small ball multi-way pots. So I like never bet a size above half multi-way. It's like I squeeze kings and it comes like 6, 7, 10. I would either play like a check or a small bet or something, because there's like 5 people in the hand. These guys have 6, 7 all the time. They have 8, 9 offsuit and 8, 9 suited. They've got pocket 6s, 5s, 10s. There's like a million hands that beat me. Kings isn't like that great anymore now that all these like super wide ranges see this flop. And then like the second dude will like raise my small bet, and like now king shrinks up like fast because he's raising when there's 3 other people in the hand still who like have infinite hands. So
I love the fact that you said 6, 7, 10. I might check flop. Like I argued the similar spot with somebody, and they probably know who they are if they watch this video. And I checked flop, and he was like, he acted like it's the end of the world. How I checked it, the board was 5, 6, 8. It was 4 ways, and I checked kings. I was out of position, and he's like, "No." He talked to a couple of his friends, and I plugged it in GTO Wizard, and he's checking like 55% of the time with kings, and he's like betting with kings that have backdoors and checking all the kings that don't have backdoors, because there was a flush draw on board too. I checked flop, and he acted like it's a huge blunder, and I'm like, "Bro, like GTO Wizard is saying like it's a check at a high percentage." He's like, "GTO Wizard doesn't matter in those live settings. You gotta c bet that board 100%." I'm like, the solver is saying, the calculator is saying that's the correct way, and you're saying no, that's a mistake. He's like, I talked, and he asked people that I don't think they're better than me, and those people said it's 100% c bet. I said, this is not 1995 anymore. You can't ask people and take when the calculator is telling you that this is the right course of action. Anyway, it was interesting that you
you
said.
could do both for
Yeah, of course. It's
maybe
not
that's when somebody tries to randomize, but usually I think it's better to be like to look for a reason to do something. Like, is the dude 2 to your left? Is he calling pocket 2s? Maybe now it's better to bet kings. That guy just never folds a pair. Okay, or like are all 3 people on your left who called like regs? They're not gonna like call down weak shit. So I would look for a reason to do something, and if you can't, try and just pick one or make up a reason rather than RNG. Yeah,
guys, it's been fun. Clyde, you have anything else to close with?
I was just gonna ask a quick question on 25, 30, 35 big blind spots. Sort of like when you have like 4, 5, 6 people limping in front of you, and then are you ever going for like 25 to 35 big blind jams, or is this just something that doesn't exist in your game?
Yeah, definitely a lot of jams.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Is that hands like ace jack? Is that hands like king queen off, king queen suited? Is that pairs? Like, what do you think about those like really like loose limper like squeeze spots and / jam spots?
I probably wouldn't say the range. I think these are like is data that's hard to get, and you have to kind of like actually run a solve for this on HRC. So it's not something I want to just super give out, but the general principle that it's going to show you is that like ISOing to 5 bigs or 6 bigs and getting called by like anyone is rough. It sucks. It like really sucks. Especially if like the first call starts, the second call starts, the third call, and now you're playing like a 6-way out of position big pot. And a lot of times just jamming for like 40 and just saying like fuck it, let's run some cards, or I'll scoop 5 bigs is going to be like a more winning strategy.
Well, I'm not also just necessarily talking about out of position for sure. I'm just saying like 5 people limp in front of you and you have ace 10 offsuit on the button and you have 30 big blinds. Like, well, what are you doing here? Like, are you ever like ripping it?
I would
Even
for
in
sure
position?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay, so that sort of stuff exists. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah,
in addition
sometimes
to what
it's
we were
like I
talking
said.
about.
There's different kinds of limpers though. So there's the people that Carl is talking about, and there's like the people who just have Jack 3 suited.
You'll be
Yeah.
surprised. In versus population, I don't like that play just because they limp the sevens. They limp ace king. They limp like you'll be surprised. One of them is gonna call you. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
get called. So it's not getting through. And the fact that you're getting called, you have to do it linearly. So you have to do it with value hands. I hate doing it with like ace 10 off.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a spew. Like this is a play that Jeremy, I don't think I've ever seen him do in those spots. He might squeeze, but I've never seen him like send 40 big blinds with like ace 10. I don't like it. I don't know. It might work sometimes. Like you're gonna get folds and pick up all the dead money, but the times you get called, like you're not doing that great. Like the ace jack offer is gonna call. Sometimes they limp ace queen. That's the thing. Like they're not limping just weak hands, and they don't know why they're limping. Like they limp those hands just because they don't have an open. They don't have an opening range. They just limp everything, and they open like aces kings, and they limp everything else.
I guess it depends on the player types. Some people limp strong hands. Some people have 0% limps of strong hands. But it's really hard to figure out in the moment like what that player type is limping because it's really random a lot of the time.
And this is a subject that you brought up actually, Clyde, and you said like you're wasting so much EV by taking that play just because your edge is so good post flop against these players. Why you're taking that high gamble spot against players that like when they call you with fives and sixes, even those hands you don't want to get calls by like even deuces, and they'll call with that hand just out of spite, like oh he's stealing the pot, so they'll call you with like a small pocket pair like fours or fives, and now you're flipping mid tournament on a day two for no reason. You know what I mean? You're throwing your edge out the window.
I don't know.
Bigs.
For me, I've always incorporated a lot of high variance, like pre-flop stuff into my game. It's sort of something I've been working against having a lot of recently. But I mean, that's just on my strategy in general.
There was a hand in Cherokee. I was complaining to my buddies. I was in Cherokee last week, but it was I got trapped like 16 different times. Just every person was trapping like on every street always. And I was getting irritated. I'm like flaming people for like.
Was it just versus you, or they were doing it just in general?
It was just like every player who's kind of like a recreational, like North Carolina, just like farmer kind of guy. They were just like playing anti-poker where they have like a great hand but don't put chips in. And then like
was that during the stop right now that you just came back from Cherokee?
I got trapped a lot, but one of the hands I'd seen some of these multi-way limp spots where you actually shove like really good hands and it's kind of annoying. So it's like limp, and then like ace king suited might just jam. And ace king suited's like fucking so good. And if like this ever happened online and someone just saw me shove like 30 bigs with ace king suited, they would just tag me as like a nit right away. Because that's like that's so weak to do that. Because the hand's so good. But there's my first time ever doing it with ace king suited was in Cherokee. I went like 4 limps and I just jammed like 30 bigs, like ace king suited from the big blind instead of ISOing. I've ISOed it my entire life. This is my first time jamming it. The first limper called me with queen 10 suited for 30. Just called.
That's what I'm saying. You get calls. You get calls with like weak hands. I mean, you don't mind it. Did he win?
No, he didn't win. But I was blown away, and I had the table, and there's like one reg at the table. I'm like, he's gonna fucking think I'm a nit, but I know this is actually kind of a good play here. I've looked at this spot, and it blew me away that like ace king suited jam like multi-way.
They never.
It's the principle. It's the principle of the out of position big pot and how ranges can open other ranges.
It's gonna be
Guys,
so hard to play that.
It's been a lot of fun. That was an interesting pod. Anything else you want to add, Shane, before we wrap it up? We're at the hour 43 minutes. That's the probably the longest pod ever, and I think the most interesting.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I've been watching them so far. Jeremy's is great. AJ's is great. Clyde's is great.
Thank you.
I don't know how big the market is for Tampa poker players, but as a Tampa poker player, it's fun to see my my coworkers or even other players. I think it'd be cool to get like a huge losing player on the pod and just hear what they're up to or like what they're thinking.
Send the name and I'll get them on the pod.
All right, I'll type all the losers now.
Oh,
Jimmy Farns. Oh, sorry.
But it'd be fun. It's just like to learn these guys because maybe they don't know anything about me and maybe they find this fun. But I like learning about you guys.
You know what? I'm getting Jimmy on the pod, and we're gonna
Fuck
discuss
yeah.
strategy. We're gonna
Does Jimmy
discuss.
lose a
I
lot?
would love it. I would love it.
I've heard that he's like nitty because you guys are like
He's
talking
all
about how
about
he's afraid to bubble.
survival. Yeah, he's all about like survival. But he takes like some weird lines in marginal spots. He just like sends.
Ace
Well,
king.
we'll get him on the pod, and we'll talk about some hand histories.
This
Uh,
was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed listening to Shane's story, listening to how he spun up almost like $1,200 into almost $500,000 in crypto, and just like his poker journey. I think Shane's story is really cool, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the next 4, 5, 6 years.
We learned a lot for
Me
sure.
too.
Okay, guys, see you on the felt. Are you guys playing anything tonight?
Negative.
Probably not. Is there anything
I'm
running?
gonna go grab some food.
There's 130 at Hard Rock. I think it's like 15K guaranteed or something. It's a shit show. I think it's like 20K starting stack, 20-minute levels.
Huh. Maybe if I'm bored, I'll see you.
You know what? There's one question I asked to rate the local rooms. That's been a staple in every podcast. Let's do it real quick. We're at the
No explanation,
145
just
minute
rank.
mark. We can add 5 more minutes. It's not the end of the world.
Tampa. I like Derby a lot. I remember telling Becker one time after the first time I went there, I was like, Derby's kind of cool. He goes, Derby? I'm like, I don't know. It's clean. It looked nice. He goes, clean? He was like freaking out. I'm like, it was clean. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think he'd been there like in a long time. But I just moved here 2 years ago. I went to Derby. It was
Why
clean.
Derby?
Mostly because they run a $500 rig free tournament. I like that.
Right, this tournament will be the best value in town right now for sure. Shout out to Brian again.
The food is solid. The players are really bad, and the tournaments were good.
So
After
Derby
that,
number 1.
what's up?
Derby number 1.
No, Tampa number 1.
Hard Rock number 1.
Yeah, of course.
So why Hard Rock? Just few.
Biggest guarantees. The food court's good too, and you can use like your cash from playing cash games, like your credits or whatever, for free food.
Mm-hmm.
Ye's great. The structures are always great. Yeah, they run real series. Sometimes they have it in a ballroom and stuff with like WPT or whatever. So them for sure. Derby number 2, decent food, terrible players, good tournaments.
That's one thing we need as Tampa grinders. We need more ballroom stops. This one stop. This is something I never mentioned on the pod. Shout out to
This is a great point.
We need. There's no reason why we can't be like Hollywood. I don't understand why we have one stop. The market is there. Anytime they put a guarantee, they crush it by like 2x, 3x.
Yep.
We need at least 2 ballroom stops. Beginning of the year, March, April, and then end of the year. They always fight for space, so I don't know what the solution would be. Yi is always trying. If it's up to Yi, I know he'll run it more often, but they're always fighting for that ballroom space because they always have events every weekend. But they have to find a solution. I know the poker room can't accommodate a big series like a multi-day, like a 2-week series, but they need to find a solution. We need 2 stops in Tampa. We don't need to travel that
love
much.
Playing in that ballroom so much. It's the best experience ever. It's my favorite time playing poker in Tampa, and you have that gorgeous pool right across from it, and the sunlight's right there. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Please let us play more poker in there.
Agree. It's lit up, space, enough space. Enough. Just positive all around. We definitely need 2 stops though. We need to address this more often. So number 1 is Hard Rock. Number 2 is Derby for you. Who's number 3 and 4?
I like One Night Jacks. They run some rake free stuff. They run like the Sarasota Kennel Club. I think it's called One Night Jacks now.
We can mention, that's fine. It's an hour away. So One Night Jacks, I like the lights. That's the one thing I tried to talk to Yi. We need what do you think, Clyde? Brighter lights, and they changed the lighting. Like they bought brand new bulbs, and he was like, look, we changed this row, and it was the same lights. It's yellow. They need daylight. I always say it. They need daylight because the room doesn't have windows.
Yeah.
So One Night Jacks is 3rd.
Yeah, One Night Jacks is 3rd. Tournaments are okay. It's just an hour away, but then after that, I've been to TGT like 3 times. The dealers are, like you said in the podcast before, they're amazing. But the location and even just being in that room, it feels pretty shitty. It feels just
Yeah. Shout out to Jacob. Yeah, they
Or-
need it needs a face. I mean, they gave it a facelift with the new paint
Anytime the
and
ceiling's like right above your head,
low ceiling.
it
Yeah,
feels like shit.
I don't know if there's any plans that change the venue, but location is not that great. Dealers are the best for sure. I agree with that.
It blew me away. I was like, these hands are going, and you're pushing the pots the right way. Like everything's clean here. You're doing 3-way pots fine. It's the best dealers I've seen, just like you said. Yeah,
Yeah, dealers are on point for sure.
but
And
everything
number
else about
5
it.
is Silks.
I've never been to Silks.
Never been
Interesting.
to Silks, really?
No,
Never played one of those 230 like multi-day, monthly or bi-monthly tournaments.
They've always like coincided with something else. Also until recently, I've been playing a lot online. Past couple of months, I kind of stopped online, but anything that would ever run on like a Sunday live, I would just skip because of online. Until recently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, guys, that's it.
All right.
Hour 50 minutes.
That's a long one.
Breaking records. Thank you so much for showing up on the pod, Clyde. Thank you for co-hosting.
Thank you for having me.
See you on the fell, guys.
See you. Thanks.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.